Solo nos faltan 4 personas que entran de sala de espera.
Ok, ingresando ya podemos iniciar, Mr. Jonathan. Teacher Gabriel, creo que Mr. Jonathan is having some trouble, so we can begin. If you can take the place from him, please.
Let me see.
Okay.
Listo, ¿me escuchan? 5, 4.
Okay, yeah, loud and clear.
Muy buenas tardes tengan todas y todos ustedes. Bienvenidas y bienvenidos al curso Habilidades Superiores de Comunicación en Inglés C1 Advanced. Tengo el honor de presentar a las autoridades educativas que hoy nos acompañan. Voy a comenzar por la Directora General de Educación Primaria Federalizada, la maestra Ana Laura García Calvillo. Bienvenida.
Buenas tardes.
A la subdirectora técnica María de Jesús Azamar Escobar.
Muy buenas tardes.
Tengo el agrado de presentarles a la jefa del departamento técnico, Karina Rivera Azuara.
Buenas tardes a todos, bienvenidos.
También nos acompaña el día de hoy el asesor técnico Jorge Federico López. Por supuesto, también quiero presentarles a nuestro anfitrión y coordinador local del Programa Nacional de Inglés, el maestro Ricardo Javier Hernández Pulido.
Gracias. Un saludo a todos. Bienvenidos.
Muchas gracias. Ahora que presentamos al honorable Presidium, quiero ceder el uso de la voz a quien nos dará un mensaje de bienvenida e inauguración de los trabajos de este curso. Queda con ustedes el maestro Ricardo Javier Hernández Pulido.
Thank you, Mr. Jonathan. As Frank Smith said, one language set you in a corridor for life. 2 languages opened every door along the way. Understanding the need that we must adapt our capabilities to the new curricular changes to achieve concrete results in benefits of our learning community, it is with great pleasure that I'm here today to participate in the opening ceremony of this seed training course for you. Dear teachers, on behalf of the National English Program Veracruz, let me warmly welcome you all here this afternoon. Today, I'm entirely aware of your commitment with this new task. I know for sure that all of you are facing this new challenge with a very positive attitude. This training course aims to foster your abilities in the use of language and to succeed in mastering of the future of the 4 skills in English. Being able to have a high-level proficiency in English is becoming not only a requirement, but also an important characteristic of the most effective and capable teachers and individuals of the worldwide. I would also like to express my gratitude for your continuous cooperation, participation, and implementation of the previous successful academic actions. The participation to this training program will learn most of the key structures, vocabulary, pronunciation patterns, and language traits in order to obtain a certificate with the international validity. This course will also provide you with the participants with a good insight into the process of taking a C1 test effectively. I can foresee that you will find this training course really interesting. We look forward to successful training program over the next days and strongly encourage you to all to become actively engaged in the various course sessions and activities. Thank you again for your commitment to fully follow individual and collective responsibilities. I wish you a very successful training course. And also, I would like to thank you to Ms. Ana Laura García Calvillo, Directora General de Educación Primaria Federalizada, a la Miss María de Jesús Azamar Escobar, Subdirectora Técnica de Primaria Escolar Federalizada, a la Miss Karina Rivera Azuara, Jefa del Departamento Técnico, y al Mr. Federico López, Asesor Técnico. Thank you, everyone, for being here all with us, and good luck for this session. So, I'm gonna give you the word. I don't know, Miss Ana Laura, no sé si usted quiera dar algunas palabras de bienvenida a todos los teachers del estado de Veracruz que están con nosotros. Gracias por su cooperación a todo su equipo y le cedo la palabra si usted gusta hacer uso de la misma.
Muchas gracias por permitirme saludar a nuestros compañeros docentes de 23 sectores educativos que están hoy iniciando este taller que va a ser en beneficio, estoy segura, de nuestra niñez veracruzana. Agradecer todas las facilidades y colaboración por parte del programa PRONI, que esto viene a coadyuvar a nuestro nivel educativo porque contamos con esta presencia en diferentes escuelas y eso hace que la nueva escuela mexicana se encuentre presente, brindando una excelencia educativa a nuestros niños y a nuestras niñas de todo Veracruz. Agradecer también a nuestros profesores y profesoras de inglés, que pues sabemos que hacen su mejor esfuerzo por estar siempre presentes en nuestras aulas y que eso, con seguimiento de nuestra subdirección técnica, la maestra María de Jesús, la maestra Rivera, pues sabemos que va a llevarnos a buen puerto. Asimismo, también darles un saludo de nuestro secretario de Educación, el maestro Senyas Escobar García, y de nuestra subsecretaria, la maestra Maritza Ramírez Aguilar, quienes siempre están preocupados y ocupados por brindar más y más fortalezas a nuestros estudiantes y que eso hoy hace que en este taller pues se brinden esas herramientas necesarias para que fortalezcan nuestras maestras y nuestros maestros su práctica educativa. Muchísimas gracias a todos ustedes que hoy inician este curso y que culmina el 25 de octubre, pero que sabemos que en colaboración con los docentes, pues vamos a tener frutos muy pronto en nuestras aulas. Muchísimas gracias y un abrazo. Siempre cuentan con esta dirección general. Saludos a todos.
Muchas gracias, maestra Ana Laura, directora general del sistema de primaria federalizada en el estado de Veracruz. Darles la bienvenida a todos los teachers de PRONI y asimismo es un gusto saludar a todos los teachers del estado de Veracruz que nos acompañan, como lo decía la Miss Ana Laura. So it's time to introduce you our teacher, Mr. Mario Aguilar Ramirez. He's the one that leading our sessions. Mr. Mario, you can begin this training course.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Hi, everybody. It's really a pleasure to be here working with you. I'm sorry, can you really hear me? It's everybody, please thumbs up if you can hear me. Thank you very much. No, it gives me enormous pleasure to be here working with you. As the authorities said, we know that it's very hard and it's very demanding, to join a course. Probably right now you're tired and you'd rather be doing something else. So believe me, I'm gonna do my best so that we can work together and we can learn. And as the authority says, as teacher Ricardo said, the whole idea behind this, it's to work together so that we can get all the information and all the skills, all the development of the skills, so that we can, on the one hand, probably to upgrade, to boost our English and our teaching techniques. And at the same time, those of you interested to actually get a certification, a C1 certification. Nowadays in Mexico, language certifications are suffering a lot. There are a lot of people saying that they do not really mean anything. And probably they do not in terms just of a document, but in terms of usage of the language. I think getting a language certification, be that English or Chinese or French or Greek or German, I think as a step in the right direction. I have been an English teacher for 35 years. And I have been training candidates for Cambridge examinations probably for, probably 30 years. And in my experience, when students come to me and say, like, they really want to learn English, and they say, Maestro, he estado en beginners for 5 years. I think that it's something that it's an argument that we are constantly hearing. And I think that when we're learning a language, we have somehow to have like a goal, okay? Once we reach that goal, we can move on, and continue, and we can actually see it. not only in terms of getting the document, but also we see how our range of vocabulary and the commanding use that we have of grammar, that really means that we are becoming more and more fluent in English as a foreign language. Remember that that is what we do. In Mexico, we teach English as a foreign language because we teach our students to analyze the language, to break it into pieces and to understand how those bits and pieces come together in order for them to become fluent. All right? So without further ado, I would like to begin. But first of all, I would like to tell you about the organization of the course. Okay, well, first I'm going to show you something, and then I will tell you that. So, all right, wait. There we go. Can you see my screen, teachers?
Yes, sir.
Yes.
Thank you very much. Thank you. All right. So we're going to be working, towards the certification C1 Advanced, which is one of the two most advanced language certifications in the world. And we're going to use the Cambridge suit as the basis. Even though Cambridge is not the only certification body in the world, it is the most recognized, and it is the one that most universities, that is, if you want to do like I don't know, probably a master's or a doctorate in the European community and in some universities in the United States, right? And they are widely accepted all over the world. And that is really, really interesting about language certifications. I don't know if you have had the opportunity to get one, but it actually separates you from the rest. A lot of people speak English, but very few people do get a language certification, all right, which is a level, an international level of English. And that is validated by Cambridge, who I think participated very actively in the creation and the development of English, not only as a language, but also as a subject to be taught all over the world. All right, so let me show you. When we talk about certifications, okay, we usually identified these symbols right here. A1, A2, A1, pre-A1, A1, A2, B1 and B2. These two, the ones right here, B2 and B1, are probably most popular in Mexico, especially B1. Okay, many speakers of the language get a B1, which is not bad. It is actually quite good. And the outside world, a B1 language certification, many people consider it advanced, all right? Now, for example, in many universities, they're asking for a B2. Now, we're going to be focusing on C1, which is the certification that is required by many, many universities in the European community if you want to do a master's degree or if you want to get a job, probably teaching there or probably working as an assistant or probably working for the government. There is this very interesting anecdote about Chicharito. Do you know Chicharito, the soccer player? He went to play to play soccer in England, but funnily, he didn't speak English when we went there, right? So while he was there, he was somehow picking up, like some words and some phrases. He was making himself understood. But eventually, England passed a law which dictated that everybody from another country who wanted to do a certain job in England and who was not a native speaker should take a language certification. So if you Google this, you will see Chicharito taking, like the course for a B2 certification, because I don't really know what team he was playing for in England, but it was required by the European community to do so. All right, this is just like an anecdote. So as you can see, C1 is just one before C2, which is the highest level of English. Something that has always wondered me is, like, sometimes I see these ads on the internet and they're asking for a job. I mean, they are offering a job and they are looking for somebody who speaks 100% of English. And I always wonder, who speaks 100% English? Nobody. That would mean that person would have to know every single rule, every single word in the English language, and that is impossible. Even us, as speakers of Spanish, because it is our native tongue, we do not speak 100% of Spanish. So for me, it's always been funny now that these companies are always looking for 100% of English. I don't think it can be, the way we speak English cannot be really measured by percentages, but it can be measured by these levels. Okay, there are certain, like certain areas of language, of vocabulary, certain grammar points, certain communicative writing activities that a person at a certain level must be able to do with certainty and with accuracy. Now, C1 consists of 4 papers, which are right here. Paper number 1 is reading and use of English. All right. Reading, use of English, is basically grammar and vocabulary. There is a long list of grammar points that the candidates taking a C1 certification test, right, that he or she should know. And the same goes for vocabulary. And when I'm talking about vocabulary, I'm not talking a group of words. I'm talking about collocations, idiomatic expressions, fixed expressions, phrasal verbs, all those little bits and pieces that keep the language alive, as in Spanish. Okay, how do we know that somebody speaks Spanish fluently? Well, they can use all these bits and pieces, in a way that they sound natural. And obviously reading, which is basically reading authentic texts, long text, and being able to identify the main idea and some details. The other part is writing. What's interesting about writing for a certification is that, remember that writing, number 1, is an intellectual activity. Okay, it has to be done probably, and if possible, in silence. It has to be organized, and it must have a point. It must have a goal, because in the end, even though you're writing, you're trying to communicate an idea. You're probably reporting something that happened at an event. You're probably proposing a new idea for the new library. You're probably writing to your boss to get like permission to be off school every Friday because you're doing a master's degree. You're probably writing a letter of application because you want to get a job in another country. So the idea behind writing for C1, it's to write cohesively, coherently, logically, and going straight to the point so that the person reading the piece gets an idea of what you want them to do or to know. You will probably have to write an essay, a discursive essay, like probably, what do you think about social media? Or what do you think about the problem right now between Palestine and Israel? You probably will have to write a letter of application, or probably a letter of reference, which has become very popular in the business world. Sometimes a friend will ask you to write a letter of reference, in which you talk about all the qualities of your coworker, or like a letter of recommendation, okay? Probably you will have to write a movie review. Okay, you watch a movie and then you write a review talking about the pros and the cons, the things that you think are worth or are really valuable in the movie, and the things that you think were not really that effective, and then writing a final suggestion, probably a book review. All right? Listening. What is funny in English is that we are constantly listening to English. There is this very interesting like a stereotype of the English teacher, which is this person carrying a tape recorder everywhere, right? I don't know about you, but I remember probably 5 years ago, before the pandemic, that's how I was somehow doing the listening activities in my classroom. Now, no, it has evolved, and we have the internet, and probably we have a computer. We don't really have to use a CD. But no, listening, it's an important component of an English class, and it's also an important component in a C1 certification. You will probably have to identify the speaker's stance, how he feels, his opinions, or her feelings. You will probably have to listen to get the gist, to get the main idea, or to listen for detail. Listening to take notes, which is quite popular, no, and quite useful. All right, because sometimes when we're listening to somebody, think about this. You're listening to me right now, all right? And some of you will probably be taking notes. So what are you doing? You're just writing down the most important information, or the information that you think is relevant or will be relevant to you eventually when we start working with the activities. So listening, it's very important, and we do it all the time. Right now, that's what you're doing. You're listening to me. You are somehow exercising your listening skills. When we walk into the classroom, no, and we say, "Good morning, students, how are you?" And they respond to you, that's listening. All right. When they say, "Can I go to the bathroom?" And you say, "Can you say that again?" "Yes, can I go to the bathroom?" "All right, go." That's listening. Okay. And then finally, speaking. In speaking, there are some things to pay attention to. For example, in speaking, you will have to talk about your interests, to talk about your studies, your careers, your personal lives, your children, your friends, your favorite book, your favorite movie, your favorite music. You will have to express your opinions, whether you like something or you dislike something, and more importantly, to verbalize why is it that you like it and you dislike it, to compare pictures, to contrast pictures, okay? When you are working with another partner, to exchange ideas, to agree, to disagree, or to agree to disagree, to reach a consensus, all right? So speaking is done basically in pairs, and sometimes a third party would interfere, which is in this case will be the examiner. That's what we're going to be covering. All right, we're going to be covering part of the grammar and part of the vocabulary that is required for a C1 advanced certification. And also I will be giving you some strategies to master the exercises. That's reading comprehension, right? Everybody can read, but how can I do that in such a way that I am successful? Because that's also important. Remember that a certification is not only a test of English, a test of grammar and vocabulary. It is also a test of skills and how you can survive using English as a foreign language. All right. And now I can tell you how we're going to organize every talk. The idea is that we begin with a talk. I begin with this, giving you some bits and pieces, some information, explaining something to you, answering some of your questions, probably some of you sharing some experiences. All right. The second part will be the workshop. You will be working either on your own or in pairs, okay, to doing an activity. After that, we will come back. We will check all the answers, and I will give you feedback to tell you. That's very important in a certification course. Okay, it's like, okay, the correct answer is A, but now let's find out why B, C, and D are incorrect. Okay, error analysis is very, very important. The idea is to get the right answer and to know exactly why that is the right answer. Okay, no solo porque, bueno, es que así me sonó, which can be good. No, when we start understanding the language and we get the right answer because it sounded right, that's a good thing, definitely. But now let's somehow heighten that. Let's make it more interesting. Okay, that's right. It felt good. Now let's see why it felt good. Was it the preposition? Was it the tense? Was it the way you organize the sentence? Was the register okay? All right. So that kind of reflection, it's really, really important when we are learning English as a foreign language, or even when we are learning English, as a second language. Remember that as a second language, the basis of English is only communication. communication. People who are probably living in the States, without knowing English, and they go at night, to learn English. They are actually learning English as a second language. We are living in a Spanish-speaking country, all right? So we learn and we teach English as a foreign language. All right, now we're going to begin with reading, but what do we understand for reading? People do not like to read. That's a fact. And it's really, really sad. Okay, we admire all those civilizations, advanced or first world civilizations or societies. It's not civilizations, I'm sorry, societies. And one thing that separates us from them is the fact that many of them actually read. We do not seem to find the time to read. Everybody wants to read, but we don't really have the time. Believe me, it's really easy, to start reading if you really want to start reading. And we are constantly reading, and we somehow shied away from reading. I don't know, a few years ago, if you wanted to make a chocolate cake, you would have to read a book, a cookbook, and then find the recipe and read it. Now, what do? We find a tutorial. We don't read anymore. We are told how to do it. All right? So that's why reading nowadays has become like a really difficult, really hard skill to master. Remember that reading is the ability to read, comprehend, interpret, and decode language. That's it. Very simple. Okay, the ability to do that. We are constantly reading. We can probably read for pleasure. I don't know about you, but I love reading. Okay, I am constantly reading. I read novels, short stories, poetry, articles. I love the cinema and I love music. And I'm constantly reading magazines, music magazines, and cinema magazines all the time. All right. And sometimes we read because we have to, because we need to probably talk to our students about something specific we are not really familiar with, because we don't really know why our Xbox is not working and nobody seems to know the answer. So we look for the manual and we sit down and read. We are constantly reading, either because we love to or either because we have to, but we are. There are 3 types of reading or reading strategies, and I'm sure you are familiar, if not with all of them, at least with 2 of them. The first one, which is a skimming. A skimming, is just to move your eyes all over the text to get the general idea. All right? You do not read in detail. You only skim the text. You actually say it, even in Spanish, esquimeas el texto, to get the general idea. And we say, okay, it's a text about electricity. And it's an opinion text, for example. All right? The second type of reading strategy, or reading per se, as we do, is a scanning, which is when we read to locate a specific information. In the past, we didn't have cell phones. We have a phone at home, right? And there was this big book with yellow pages called La Sección Amarilla, o el Directorio Telefónico. And when we wanted to call somebody, we would have to scan the text. We would not read the text from beginning to end. We would scan the text very carefully. Calderón, Juan Pablo Calderón. So I would look for the CA, and then I will scan the text very quickly to locate the specific information. These 2 strategies are very popular in our English classes, skimming and scanning. Okay, there are 2 more. The first one is extensive reading, which many people call a speed reading, which is to read very quickly a lot of information in a very short period of time. Sometimes, I realized when I was teaching full-time, because right now I am the language coordinator of the school where I work, but I don't know, probably like 5 years ago, before I was appointed as a coordinator, I just realized in the morning that I hadn't read the information or the document that I was supposed to. all right, in order to teach my class in the morning. So what I did is that I would print it out, or I would probably use my iPad, and on the bus, no, I would read it very, very quickly, no, just to get, once again, the general idea and to absorb as much information as possible. All right. And the other one is intensive reading, which is the one we do when we are reading for pleasure. We read slowly, carefully, to understand every detail, every nuance, to understand it in depth. Sometimes, I don't know about you, I don't know if you read, I'm sure you do, but sometimes I am reading a novel, right? And I continue reading and I get lost. I don't really know, or I do not understand because my mind was somewhere else, no? So what do? I go back and I read again, all right? Because I want to get as many details and as much information as possible in order for me to understand the whole story. All right? So keep this in mind, because we're going to be using some of these strategies or some of these ways of reading now when we do all these activities. Let's talk about the reading strategies for C1. Remember that C1 is a level of proficiency, okay? It's rather advanced, okay? The candidate, no, or the person who gets a C1 advanced certification can read independently, no, and without, no, a lot of stops, complex and authentic material and books, all right? Let's begin with this. As I said, okay, C1 is an advanced level of language proficiency, and we are expected to have a high degree of reading comprehension of the target language. Sometimes, no, I don't know about you, but before I got a C1 level of English, I was reading a text that it was above my head, and it was really, really difficult for me to understand the main idea because of the vocabulary, because of the way it was organized, because of the language, because of the syntax, no, because of the topic. For C1, that's a requirement, okay? How can we, in a way, become better at reading for C1? The only answer is reading. We have to be reading constantly, not only in class, but all the time. Now with the internet, I remember when I was learning English, I graduated from the University of Veracruz, from Facultad de Idiomas. And back then, it was really difficult to get authentic materials, let's say books or articles or magazines or newspapers. It was really difficult, if not impossible. I mean, if you knew somebody was going to the United States or to England or to Australia, you would tell that person, hey, can you get me a newspaper? Any newspaper. Can you get me a book? Can you get me a magazine? Because that was the only way we could have the opportunity to read authentic materials. Nowadays, it's right there. All you have to do is to click, to Google something, and it's going to be right there. You can go to Sanborns, for example, and you can buy books and magazines in English. So it's right there. Sometimes, and I think we do not read in English because we don't want to. And believe me, as English teachers, I think it's our obligation to read. It's very expensive to read, mind me. All right, in Mexico, unfortunately, it's one of those pleasures that costs a lot of money because books are very expensive. I don't know if you know, but books are not printed in Mexico. They're printed either in Argentina or in Spain, and it's really, really expensive. And in English, they are printed in the States or in England. And obviously, bringing those books to Mexico, it's very expensive. No, but you can get all of that from legal sites on the internet. I will share with you some sites at the end of the course if you're interested, because you can download the book onto your iPad or your Kindle or your book or your computer, even your phone, and you can read. All right, read. Really, this is one thing that I have been encouraging my students to do all my career as a teacher. Read all the time. I mean, it's really amazing how much we can read and learn. Okay. So as I said, C1 candidates, they must be able to understand a wide range of complex texts. All right, they can be just like if they were printed for native speakers. When we are, let's say, learning English and our level is A2 or B1 or B2, the texts that we read have been modified. They have been adapted for our level of English. But for C1, that's why it's required when you go to do a master's in another country, because you're going to be reading authentic books, the books that native speakers are reading. All right? So these books or this reading material, can come in the shape of newspapers, magazines, literary works, let's say novels, short stories, poetry, plays, essays, and technical manuals, like the one sometimes we get when we buy a new phone, or we buy an iPad, or we buy a new blender. What do? Do we read it in English? No, we just go for the version in Spanish, right? Many people will do that, and it's okay. No, it is okay, because sometimes, probably at times, we might feel we won't be able to understand the text. But give yourselves a chance, and you will see now that the more you read, the more you will be able to comprehend. So remember, I would like to begin with that. How can I improve my reading skills? By reading. By reading everything that is in English, okay? Take the opportunity and read it in English. Even if you do not understand the whole thing, that's fine. In Spanish, when we're reading an article in Spanish, let's be honest, do you understand every single word? I bet you don't. I bet there are 2 or 3 words in Spanish you don't really know, but you can work out the meaning from the context. And what do we say? Nunca he visto esa palabra, pero se debe referir a una planta. Nunca había yo escuchado ese verbo, pero debe ser algo así como criticar sin aportar nada nuevo. So we have to do, or we can do exactly the same thing in English, all right? And it's amazing how much vocabulary we can learn by just reading. And I'm not talking about spending 2 hours reading every single day. No, 5 minutes, 10 minutes, really. It's amazing how much we can learn, or we can read and then learn in 10 minutes. It's like running. When you want to start running, or you want to start doing exercise, what do? You begin with very simple routines, probably 5 minutes and 10 minutes, and then as you get better and you get better and get better, obviously you're going to be increasing the number of minutes you're going to be working out and the intensity with which you are working out. The same thing is going to happen with reading. All right, so begin with something very simple, but in English, and you will see how, as you progress and your skills get better and better and better, you will be demanding more complex, more sophisticated texts. All right, so let's begin. First of all, vocabulary in reading, okay? Vocabulary is very important. We have to be able to understand nuance meanings, like an innuendos, like a double meanings, idiomatic expressions, and figurative language. As if we were reading, you must be able to identify a simile, a metaphor, an alliteration. And remember that when we're teaching English, we are not only teaching the language, we are also teaching culture, all right? Music. We talk about the pop culture from the world. So teaching idiomatic expressions, it's very important, okay? I once went to this course, and I remember they asked the person in charge, the speaker, how do I know that I have become fluent in English? Does that mean that I speak very quickly without a lot of pauses? And this person, who had come from England, from Cambridge specifically, said, no, that only means you speak quickly without pauses. To be fluent in English is to be able to speak with a wide range of vocabulary, which will include idiomatic expressions. For example, in Spanish, okay, when it's raining really, really hard, we say, se está cayendo el cielo, o parece un diluvio. Ese parece un diluvio, es lenguaje figurativo porque es una figura retórica. Es alusión porque estoy aludiendo a la Biblia, por ejemplo. You don't really have to explain it. Everybody knows about that. All right? How do you say está lloviendo, okay, o está diluviando, o el cielo se está cayendo in English? Using an idiomatic expression. We say it's raining cats and dogs.
It's pouring.
It's
pouring down. We can say
Correcto.
also it's pouring down.
Exactly. Very good.
Yeah.
Exactly. Right. Okay. So for C1 Advanced, no, mastering these idiomatic expressions, not all of them, obviously, right? But most of them, it's really, really important. All right. I don't know about you, but when I watch movies, no, if I'm watching movies on my own, if I'm watching movies with my partner, we watch the movies with subtitles in Spanish because he doesn't speak Spanish, he doesn't speak English. But if I'm watching movies on my own, I watch the movie with subtitles in English because I want to make the connection between the sound, the words, and what they say. And I have been, thanks to Netflix, I have been able to learn a lot of idiomatic expressions, a lot of fixed expressions, and also, a lot of pronunciation in terms on how to pronounce certain words. All right? So always be on the lookout for vocabulary all the time. Capitalize on every single opportunity you have to learn something new. Even if you know that you have learned a lot, and I'm sure some of you have, and some of you speak beautiful English, believe me, there is always one word or one expression, okay, that you go like, oh, wow, ah, caray, no sabía que se decía de esta manera. Oh, that's really interesting. I'm going to use it the next time, okay? And by you incorporating that idiomatic expression in your everyday speech, you are becoming more and more fluent. The grammar, okay, which I call the mathematics of the language, okay? Students do not like it because grammar is, as mathematics, an exact science. They have to learn it, okay? They have to remember how to construct it, how to use it, okay? What words to put, what words to omit, how to change the word order, no? And even though students dislike it a lot because in the end they have to go home and study, right? And they have to do some exercises, which it's like, let's say, probably like the equivalent to mathematical problems. Many teachers enjoy teaching grammar. I love teaching grammar. It's safe. When you teach grammar, when you're teaching a grammar class, you feel safe, okay? Because it's restrained to a certain extent. You're teaching one thing only, and the students will respond to that only, all right? But it's very important to know it, okay? Present simple, present off the top of my head, present simple, present continuous, present perfect, past perfect continuous, passive voice, active voice, reported speech, participle clause, clauses of concession, conditionals, and so on. I mean, the list goes like almost for hours of all the grammar points we have to be able to know, to manipulate, and to change. All right? And also these bits and pieces about grammar that even though there is a rule, there are certain exceptions. We also have to know that, which is something that students hate. I don't know about you, but in my experience, I mean, you spend, let's say, 20 minutes like presenting the grammar point and the structure and the pattern, and the students got it. And then you go like, but remember, there are certain exceptions to the rule. No, and the students go like, oh, come on, right? So for C1, you have to be able to identify those. And you know what? We already do. As English teachers, we have this sense, when it comes to the language, either because we have lived in the States, either because, or probably because we have taken a certification, or because we are constantly using the language in a very organic, natural way. But for whatever reason, there are some things that we just know. Okay, we have to stop and think about it when we want to explain that to our students. all right? But we just know we have this sixth sense when it comes to English, all right? Now, inference and interpretation. We have to be able to make, okay, to interpret, to read the text, no, and to somehow read between the lines. What is the writer trying to say? Is he happy? Is he sad? Is he for? Is he against? What does he want the reader to do? Even without
Hello,
the
¿cómo va, mi querida?
writer telling you what, excuse me, even without the
Bueno,
writer
me escribes
telling,
cualquier cosa. Dios.
all right, you also have to be able to analyze and evaluate content. Okay, what is this? Probably you will be given like a graph. You will have to study the graph, no, or a pie graph, and then write something about it so you can reach to some conclusions. It's like sometimes you will have to put into words, no, something, no, that is just a graph, that is just an illustration. I think nowadays, because of the internet, I don't know if you're familiar with learning styles, multiple intelligences. If you took the course that we had like a few weeks ago, it was TKT, we talked about that. And it's I think it's important to know in which way we learn. And it's really funny because now when you ask people, how do you learn? They say, I'm a visual learner. And I think most of us are. We learn by looking. All right, look at the phone. Okay, look at the screen of your phone right now. Do you have to read? No. No, what do you have? You have icons, apps, right? And we identify the app by the icon, by the illustration, okay? Because they are visually attractive. We do not read anymore. Not even to do that, not even to use our phone. I'm not criticizing, I'm only commenting on the way things are, all right? So it's really important for C1 that we are able to see the drawing, to see the illustration, and then to put that into words. Really important. Many people find that really, really difficult because of the times we are living. All right, but there are 2 or 3 strategies that I will share with you so that you can able, okay, or you will be able, I'm sorry, to do that. Another thing, no, with C1 advanced candidates is that they can read independently. They can sit down and read a text without Googling words, without checking the word or looking the word up in a dictionary. Okay, C1 readers or C1 candidates are independent readers, the same way we would do it in Spanish. I think right now, as teachers, we are independent readers of Spanish. When we find a word, as I was saying a few minutes ago, when we find a word we do not know, what do? Do we look it up? Sometimes. Do we Google it? Probably, if the phone is right next to us and if the word is really bothering us a lot. If not, what do? We skip it because probably the word is not really that important, or we work out the meaning using the context. So the same thing happens in English, right? We have to be able to identify, no, or to see the meaning of a word depending on the context in which the word is being used. So remember that vocabulary, grammar, analysis, evaluation, and independence, no, are 3 items that are very important when you want to become a C1 candidate or you want to take a C1 certification of English. Now, let's talk about skimming and scanning. As I said at the beginning, you are probably familiar with this. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to stop sharing. Now, do you do that in your classes? I mean, do you ask your students when you are teaching reading, do you tell them to skim the text or to scan it, or do you do it? Anybody? No? All right, I guess not. All right. So,
No, yes, of course. We scan and we scan, of course.
and it's and Maestra Angelica Moreno, right?
Yeah.
Thank you. And do you find those reading strategies useful for your students and for you when reading, let's say, a text in English?
Yes, of course. Of course, because we are sometimes we don't have enough time to read the complete text just to find a specific information. So we have to scan or skim. It depends on the activity. So yeah, they are very useful and helpful.
Thank you. Yeah, so you said, thank you very much, Maestra. Yes, you said probably we don't have time. And you know what, teachers, sometimes we don't really have to. Okay, it's not really necessary to read the whole text. Okay, just by skimming to get the general idea and to scanning to get the specific information will be more than enough. And we are doing this constantly in Spanish. No, and if you do it with your students, you are giving them two very important tools to read in English. People say, no, I remember in the course that, as I said, that we had like a few weeks ago, no, some of the teachers, no, they were complaining about how English, many students think is como una materia de chocolate, no? I mean, it's like, it's not really useful, but it is. I mean, English is everywhere, in music, in movies, in books, right? And these new majors, no, these new things people are studying at the university. I mean, English is right there. I don't know if you have stopped to think about all the words in Spanish that we use in English, all the words from English, I'm sorry, that we have incorporated into Spanish. I mean, to say that English is not really important, basically it's to swim against the current, right? So it's our job to raise our students' awareness in the importance of English in the classroom and outside the classroom, no, in their daily lives. And when it comes to reading, I think skimming and scanning, it's very, very useful, especially if students do not want to read. Now, when students see a very long text, either it's English or Spanish, right there, they turn off. They say, ay, profe, qué texto tan largo, qué flojera. But if they know skimming and scanning, it doesn't really matter how long the text is, because they know they will probably have to read the whole text. Okay, they will be able to identify the most important information and the main idea, and that will be enough. All right, once again, vocabulary, okay? Common and specialized terms, okay? In this case, it's not only like vocabulary that we use in everyday life, but for example, think about travel vocabulary. It's very important. What are the words that students are very likely or candidates are very likely to use when going on vacation, for example? No, a school vocabulary. No, like all those words are contained in these like groups, and it's very important to know all those words and also those specialized words together with idiomatic expressions and fixed expressions. All right. As I said, context is very important to deduce the meaning of unfamiliar words or phrases, as we do in Spanish. And inferential skills, no, which means it's using all the information in the text. They will be able to read between the lines, no, and to come to a conclusion, okay, based on all that. It's to talk about and to identify what is not really there in the words. It's what goes beyond the words, what's really important. All right? Critical thinking, it's a very important skill nowadays. Okay, they keep pushing this in our classrooms, like we have to increase, no, and motivate our students not to develop their own critical thinking. What is critical thinking? I mean, it's very difficult to define it, but no, right here, it's to be able to evaluate arguments, credibility of sources, and biases or assumptions. Okay, it's sometimes not like to be able to say, okay, the writer says that because he has this background, or the writer has that opinion because he was born in a time when women were not able to vote, for example, or he has this position because he has been producing this and that, or the text was produced in this year, and in that year this and that was happening. Okay, how do we evaluate arguments? Okay, when we look at both sides, okay, and both sides, both ends of the stick, they are presenting like really, what's the word, like supported reasons for their argument. And then once again, credibility of sources, which is to identify where the information comes from and to see if that source is important or not, or relevant to the task or not. That's critical thinking. To be able to think beyond the words in the text. Text structure, the way a text is organized. Sometimes we just look at a text and that's it, we start reading. But when we do like a pre-reading, and we understand not only what the text is about, but how the text is organized, the reading is going to be a lot easier, than if we didn't do that. How many paragraphs? How are they connected? What are they bullets right here? Are there headings, right? And then how that information, there is a microphone that is open, I'm sorry. Right, the way the paragraphs are connected, one with the next one, with the next one, and with the next one. Okay, do they go from the general idea, okay, to the more specific idea, or do they begin with something specific, with a personal experience, right? And then they just end with a more general, okay, conclusion. It's really important to understand the way a text is outlined. Then it would help you also to understand the intention of the writer. Tone and style. Is it formal, informal? Is it trying to convince you to do something, or is it only describing something? Also, it's important to understand the author's intentions and his or her emotion, especially when we're reading literary texts. The text you read for a C1 advanced certification, they will come from all walks of life, probably from an encyclopedia, from a scientific magazine, probably from a short story, an extract from a novel, probably will be part of a poem or part of a play, right? So it's really important, right, to understand the structure first, and then to identify the tone and the style. Very important. I don't know if you read, I don't know if you have a favorite writer. It's interesting how when we have a favorite writer, we are able to understand and to recognize the way that writer writes, the style, the tone, the vocabulary, the structure. For example, I like Stephen King a lot. Okay, and I'm able to understand more or less, to identify some features in the way he writes. All right, I have been reading Stephen King for, I don't know, probably 30 years now, right? So the same goes for C1. All right, all those bits and pieces that we sometimes do in an everyday life when we are reading, we have to bring those into our experience when reading English. All right, and believe me, at first, if you haven't done it, at first it's going to be difficult and jarring, and you will probably feel discouraged. But eventually, once you get the hang of it, you will see that it's going to be as easy as reading in Spanish, okay? And it will give you the opportunity, okay, to read whatever that is that you want to read. Now, sometimes, I don't know, I remember a few years ago, I have this student who wanted to read George Orwell, like Animal Farm and 1984, those two famous novels in British literature. 1984 is actually considered like the best novel, in English literature, and many people think like in all the literature in the world. And he told me that he wanted to read it in English, but he didn't feel competent and independent enough to do so. And then he took a C1 certification course, training course, and he was able to do so without problem. At first, he was hesitant, the structure, the tone, the vocabulary, no, the way the writer wanted you to feel he was missing that because he didn't have the information. That's why going back to those certifications of English, that's why it's very important to know exactly what my level of English is, because it will be an indicator, like how much I can speak, how much vocabulary I know, how good my written communication is, but not only that, what is the next step? I mean, how can I increase my level of English, which is something that as English teachers, we have to be doing constantly. Okay, we have to be, like, let's say, I don't know, probably a biology teacher. I mean, that person, I have a co-worker, he's a biologist, and he's constantly reading, about these new species and about climate change and about how we are destroying the world and how now species have to undergo like a different process in order to stay alive. All right, why? Because he has to be like updated with all that information, because he has the responsibility as a biology teacher to give the students like the latest news. The same goes for English teachers. The more English we know, the more independent we are, the more fluent, the more accurate we are, the more our students will learn. Remember that our students learn, and I know that probably there are certain cases, and I do not really want to upset anybody and to angry anybody, but our students will learn depending on how much we want them to learn. As I said, I coordinate, some teachers work with me in the department where I work in the morning, and I said, we as teachers, we're supposed to infuse energy into our classroom. And a few days ago, I had this meeting with this teacher, and he said, ay, profe, si no leen una línea, ¿cree usted que van a leer un párrafo? No, por eso no lo puse. And I said, no, come on. It doesn't really matter. You cannot begin by saying or by thinking they're not going to do it. Do it. Do it. And the same goes for you, teachers. All right. I know sometimes teaching English can be very, very difficult, especially in public schools. I really admire you because you do a lot with very little, right? But sometimes it will depend on us, how much our students will learn. And that's why I say that the more English we have, the more fluent we become,
Teacher,
okay, the more chances our student will have. Yes, maestra. Yes, I'm sorry.
Yeah, there's something that happened in our public schools. Many teachers, even the Spanish teachers, they don't read. So how the students can read if we don't read, if they don't see us to read? So that's something that we set the example, as many of us say. We have to set the example and read in front of them, read them. Even when they don't like, by the time get used to listen to the reading, and so something happens with that. But if we don't read to them, because in many public schools there are libraries, but the books are there and nobody uses them. So that's a big issue that we have, and usually we have like 3 hours with every group, so it's quite difficult for us to get involved in the reading. But first, I think it must be in Spanish, because as you said, if they don't read, they don't know anything,
Yeah, no. I definitely agree with you. And yes, we have to set an example, no? And I don't know about you, but there is nothing more fascinating and attractive than to see somebody reading. I don't know. It's like this beautiful image. And it's not like your students have to see you read, okay? But tell them about the book you're reading. You know what? Like I'm reading a book about this. I'm reading a book about that. Or last week I read about this. Or when I was in high school, I read this book and I discovered this book. And believe me, eventually they will come to you, all right? And say, hey, profe, ¿me puede dar más información sobre el libro? All right. And I don't know, it's just like a comment. And thank you very much, Maestra Angelica. Yes, I mean, it's really important. No, reading, it's really, really important, not only to pass a certification, aguas, no, just in general. Okay, in general, especially nowadays, that because of social media, no, and because of the internet, unfortunately, I remember when the internet, I mean, most of you, if not all of you, are a lot younger than I am, but I was right there when the internet was being born. And I remember people saying that the internet was going to bring about all these needs. And I'm sorry, in the end, it didn't. I mean, it did to a certain extent, but it didn't. I mean, it didn't fulfill the promise that we were hearing, I don't know, por allá de 1997, 98. But anyhow, okay, just going back to this, remember, the more English you know, the more your students will benefit. All right, so now we're going to start working with this. Look at this. We're going to begin with some multiple choice exercises. These are not actually from C1. I think this is like A2, but I wanted you to see the format. We have a text, right? We have a title. We have the author. How many paragraphs are there? 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. All right. And then right here, I have 5 questions. The first reading section in C1 is a multiple choice exercise, I'm sorry. You have a text, and then you have some questions. The questions can probably be questions per se or stems, no? Like half, like a sentence, but broken. So you have to find the second part of the sentence, all right? So that's the structure. They say that this has to be approached in the way it is presented. For example, if the text is printed before the questions, so first you read the text and then you tackle the questions. If the questions are printed before and then the text, so that means that the questions have to be read first, and then you read the questions. These are only suggestions, okay? You will see that many of you are probably independent readers, and you will find your strategy, you will find the way, knowing which to tackle the exercise. But if not, I think that can be really, really helpful, because not only will you have to read, you will have to read successfully within some time limit. In this case, probably like 10 minutes or 12 minutes. All right, so that's why skimming and scanning is so important. All right, so the first thing that we do is that we skim the text. We look at the title, Starting a New School. Who wrote it? Anna Gray. Then we look at the organization, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 paragraphs. And we skim the text very quickly to get a general idea. Okay, just by looking at the title, we get a general idea. Okay, this girl is going to tell us about what happened to her during her first day at a new school. All right, and then once I have done that, I go to the questions. Okay, and in the questions, what do? I underline key information, and then I start doing some scanning. This was only to show you the format. All right, so let's continue. As I said, now you have a text. You must provide answers to 6 multiple choice questions about the text. Each question gives you 4 options to choose, but only one is correct. Sometimes the students, when I was doing this training course with the students, they would say, teacher, can 2 of them be right? And I said, no, only 1. But there are 2 that are correct. And I said, oh, you are not reading correctly. Go back and read. There is a small detail. There is a small detail they are missing. Try to identify it and you will see, you will be able to separate the last one. All right? So only 1 is right. So number 1, okay? Read the text quickly for the general idea, for the gist, for the main idea. Look at the way it is organized. Look at the title, right? Even in this section, ask yourself, how much do I know about the topic? What do I know? Going back to the other one, okay? First day at a new school. You can somehow predict. That's also critical thinking. Predicting, is a very good exercise for critical thinking. What do you think? I mean, this is for you, but also you can use it in your classes, okay? If you're doing some reading activities, give them the text, have your students read the title and ask them, okay, what is the text about? It's about soccer, teacher. Very good. Do you like soccer, Juan? Yes, I love it. Very good. Who's the best soccer player? Ronaldo, Beckham. Who's your favorite soccer team? El America, Manchester, I don't know. Things like that to set the tone. Okay, so the students know what they're going to be reading about. So the same thing goes on for you. Okay, the more you know about the topic before you actually read the text, the easier it will be for you to get it right. Okay, so skim the text. Look at the title. Look at the type of text. Is it a narrative? Is it an article? Is it a letter? Is it a journal? Right there. I'm talking about seconds. Okay, this is something that I'm sure we do on a subconscious level. Everybody does it. Number 2, go to the questions or the question stems, and we underline keywords. What are keywords? The most important words. I'm going to go back. Look at 14. How did Anna feel about moving to the new school? What would be keywords? Feel, moving, school. No? By doing that, I know exactly what I have to scan in the text. Look at number 2. Who has become Anna's best friend, new school. Okay, become Anna best friend or become best friend. We know the text is about Anna. Okay, so what do? Best friend. I go to the text and I find best friend. Best friend. All right. Then 16. What does Anna say about the timetable at her new school? So what is the topic in 16? What is the most important idea? New school? No. Anna? No. What is it? Timetable. Okay, so go back to the text and tell me, where can you find timetable? In what paragraph, teachers?
It's difficult
Sorry,
to read.
teacher, because there is so
I'm
tiny.
sorry. It's difficult to see. I'm sorry. It's actually in paragraph number 3. My bad. Let me see if I can blow this up. I'm sorry. My bad. Oh, gosh. Ahí está. It says, when I saw our timetable, my bad, I'm sorry. Ahorita lo hacemos de otra manera. All right. So what I was trying to illustrate, it was that I underline in the question, the keyword, and then I go back to the text. All right. And I locate that. I remember a few years ago, this student told me, teacher, if I do that, I think I'm cheating. And I said, why? And I said, because I'm not reading the full text. And I said, it's not necessary. If you have the time, do read the whole text. But it's not really necessary. So just scan the text and identify the key information. All right, so here we go. We read the text quickly. We'll read through the questions. Can you see my screen now, teachers? I'm sorry. No problem?
Yes, no
Yeah.
problem.
Yes,
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you. I'm sorry. Okay, now, one thing that you have to remember is that the questions follow the order of the text. Okay, sometimes you will see that you have 5 paragraphs. Chances are you're going to have 5 questions. Question 1, paragraph 1. Question 2, paragraph 2. Question 3, paragraph 3. Knowing that is really helpful because that way you don't get lost. That is one of the things with reading comprehension exercises, that we waste time, all right? Because we don't really know how to tackle it. But if I know that the questions will follow the order of the text, or the text will follow the order of the questions, I cannot get lost. All right? And also remember that I have already identified in the questions keywords. That's why it's so important. No, as I said, I was able to teach these training courses, no, for B1, for B2, and for C1, and sometimes for C2 and for TOEFL. And underlining information is really important in a certification exam, really important. Something happens when we underline the information. It goes beyond just underlining. We are more likely to remember it. We are prone to remember the information when we underline it, okay? So next time you do a reading exercise, try to do it in that way, and let's see how it works out for you, all right? So try to answer the question without looking at the choices, all right? Sometimes, okay, if the reading, okay, was successful, if we are able to identify all the bits and pieces, no, what we can do is we can probably try to answer the question without looking at the choices, all right? And once again, as you're doing this, do not get bothered by words you do not understand. Move on. Continue, don't get stuck. That's another thing that happens in reading comprehension exercises. No, students get stuck. If you get stuck, make a cross and continue with the text. And at the end, go back. Make sure you make time to go back and to do it. Probably now it will make more sense than before. All right? So do not get stuck. That's really important. Now, let's say that now you have decided that the correct answer is A. Make sure that B, C, and D are wrong, okay? Identify why they're wrong, probably because it's not mentioned in the text, probably because the information is wrong, probably because they are stating something that is completely opposite to what is stated in the text. For whatever reason, make sure you do that, okay? When you do a reading exercise in a real C1 exam certification, you have like between 10 and 12 minutes, no more than that. So we have to be able to manage our time well, okay? And we can help you to do that, okay? When we do the activities, we will probably take longer, all right? And eventually we will worry about time. What's really important right now is going to be that we understand the logistics behind the exercise and the activity. Later we can work, on timing. Now, some tips. Be careful. As I said, sometimes 2 answers will probably seem correct, both of them. That means that you're not probably reading like in depth, as much in depth as you should, or you're missing a small detail. Okay, if that is the case, underline keywords in both of your choices and go to the text and read more carefully. Scan that section more carefully and you will find the correct answer, all right? Try to avoid questions or answers, with the same vocabulary, okay? Usually correct answers will contain synonyms of the keywords. For example, if in the question they say, remember, in the text they will probably say, don't forget. You see? Synonyms, same meaning, synonyms, okay? So avoid those answers that contain the same vocabulary because chances are they are there to trip you, okay? To confuse you. And another thing is, do not be too confident, all right? Leave your opinions at the door, okay? Even, I mean, you read and you see that it's about what? El Mundial de México de 1986. And you are an expert, all right? You know every single thing. And then you read the text and you see that the information is wrong, right? And you just want to do something about it because the information is factually wrong. And then you choose an answer and you even write it. No, focus on the text. Even if the information, okay, even if you think the information is wrong, focus on the text, okay? Forget about what you know as a fact, all right? And only focus on the text. We're going to focus on what the writer says, all right? I was working with some biologists a few years ago. I was training them for a TOEFL test. And I remember there was this text about plants. I can't remember the name of the plants now. And they refused to do it because they told me that the information was incorrect, that it was a misconception. And they said that it couldn't be done because none of the answers was correct. So they refused to do it. And I said, okay, because this is a class, we're going to skip it. We're not going to do it. But if you were in the real exam, you cannot do that because you can be penalized. All right. So remember to focus on what the writer says, even if you think it's incorrect. All right. It's very unlikely for that to happen. Believe me. I mean, all these texts are like expertly and carefully curated so that they contain like accurate information. Sometimes no, because you know that now things are moving very fast and it's almost impossible to keep track of that. No, we will see that the information is not wrong, but not updated. So do not focus on that, all right? Focus on facts. Okay, and always question your answers. Okay, like, oh, this is very easy. It's A. Go back and make sure that the answer is A. All right, even if you think you are the best reader in the world, which you probably are, okay, but do not play with fire. Do not be, as I said, overconfident. Okay, review and check that B, C, and D are actually wrong, no, and that A is the right answer. Okay, sometimes when we do that, we go back and say, oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, it's not A. Yeah, good thing I checked this before I handed in the exercise because now I know the answer is C. All right, so find some time at the end, save some time at the end to read and to double check your answers. All right, teachers? So let's continue. This is basically the end of me speaking. Now you're going to be working. Okay, I'm going to send you a reading activity. I'm going to show it to you. So what do we do? Okay, just to go over. Okay, we have a text. The first thing that we do is that we read it very quickly to get a general idea. Okay, we skim it. And after that, we look at the questions. We underline in the questions key information. And with that key information underlined, I go back to the text and select the sections in the text that I think contain the right answer. Okay? Very good. Let me this. All right. We're going to read a text that it's a biography, okay? Before I send it to you, a biography of Kilian Jornet, okay? And we have a preparation task, okay? We have definitions right here, and we have vocabulary right here. Can you see my screen?
Yes, it can be seen.
Right, thank you very much. Thank you, Maestro Gabriel. So let's do it all together before I send it to you, okay? So we have kidneys, endurance to scale, breathless, a hike, a Sherpa, an ascent, and altitude. No, altitude, I'm sorry, to climb to the top, a mountain guide, the height of a place, a long, hard walk, a climb up a mountain, yada, yada, yada. For example, number one, kidneys is letter G, organs in the body that process liquid waste. Okay, this is key information, all right? Key information. It's sometimes as we are preparing for this, it's good to learn and to discover some new vocabulary. So number one is going to be letter G. Can you help me with the other ones, teachers, please?
Hello, good afternoon.
Hello?
Number two, it's letter F.
Letter F, the ability to do something difficult for a very long time. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Maestro. What about number three?
E.
Letter E?
Can be A.
Actually, is A, teachers. A, very good. What about number four?
Letter H.
Letter H, very good. Breathless. Number five?
E.
Sorry, D as in doctor?
Yes.
Thank you. D, a hike. A long, hard work. Very good. What about six?
Letter B.
Thank you. B. What about number seven?
E.
E. Okay. And then number eight?
C. Letter C.
Letter C. Very good. All right. Kidneys, endurance to scale, breathless, a hike, a Sherpa, an ascent, an altitude. These are important words for the text. Okay. Now, using this, and I look at the title, A Biography of Kilian Jornet. So what do you think Kilian Jornet did for a living?
He's a climber.
A climber. Thank you. Thank you. He was a climber. Excellent. Very good. I'm going to erase this. All right. So now let me show you. Here we have the text. Right. And then we have the first task. It says write correct numbers to complete the sentences. All right. So first, what I'm going to send you this in a minute, and I want you to skim it to get the general idea. We know it's about this guy, no, who used to climb or who climbs mountains. All right. And then for number one, you must identify numbers. In order to do this, you have to scan the text. And once you've done that, you move on to task number two. Okay, we have multiple choice questions, or in this case, stems. You see, these are question stems. We have a sentence that is interrupted, that is divided, and we must find now the correct ending. All right, so let me share it with you. via chat. Please, thumbs up. You have access to it. No? Yes? Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you to all of you responding. And to all of you not responding, thank you also. So the first thing you're going to do is to skim the text. So we have some information. He's an explorer. He's a climber. Okay? So very quickly, I don't know, probably 1 minute. Thank you very much. Skim the text. Sure. Teacher Yolanda, out again. It should be there, Teacher Irma Yolanda. All right. Now, as you can see, the text is not really that complex, and it's an authentic text. Right. So we go to task number 1. So it says, I have to find numbers. Now, if I skim the text very quickly, I can see that there are a lot of numbers, 97%, 8,850, 3,500, 7,000, 2017, 26, 17, and so on. All right? Now, here, let's find some keywords. It's normal to find it hard to breathe at meters above sea level. Remember that we have, in many cases, find synonyms, all right? So I have to find some information. Normal, hard, breathe, above sea level. That would be the key information. Okay, so I need to find a section in the text that talks about, okay, being hard to breathe. Or if you remember, there was one word in the vocabulary at first that more or less have the same idea. Do you remember what word?
Breathless.
Exactly, breathless. Very good. So hard to breathe or breathless. What do? I skim the text very quickly and I find that word. Try to find it. Remember that they are in order. So try the first paragraph.
8,850 meters can be.
It says right here, the thin air at high altitudes makes most people breathless at 3,500 meters. And the vast majority of climbers use yada, yada, yada. Okay, so I have this. And that is the correct answer. All right. So the answer to this one is 3,500. You see, it's an example in which by using synonyms and underlining, I was able to find the answer. Once again, I'm only making suggestions. No, I'm sharing these strategies, which are the strategies that I was giving my students. All right. But if you have another strategy, by all means, do it, use it. You don't feel forced to use this one. All right. The idea is that you are successful now in finding the correct answer. Look at number 2. What could we underline? We're talking about hours. So I would say reach, summit, Everest, second attempt. Reach, summit, Everest, second attempt.
Did it again.
In 17 hours.
Exactly.
17 hours when it says he did it again. That was the clue.
Thank you, Adriana. Thank you, teachers. And he did it again, 17 hours. Very good. Yes, teacher Adriana, I'm sorry.
No, that's all. Thanks.
All right. Thank you. Thank you very much. Okay, so just please humor me. Okay, underline keywords, use that if those keywords, and then go back to the text, no, and find, we're looking for numbers. All right. This is a very good exercise, I'm sorry, for scanning. I'm going to be here if you need any help, and we check in about 5 minutes. Only task number 1, please. Thumbs up if everybody's on the same page, please. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you, guys. Thank you. I'm going to turn off my camera because I'm going to stand up to plug in my laptop. I'll be back in a minute. Okay, Maestro Gabriel, thank you.
Thank
All right. So let's see. In number 3, what are the key words, teachers? What would you say are the key words?
Says that when he was a child, something like that. That
Okay.
he long distance with her mother.
Okay, very good. Thank you very much. Very good. We could probably write he walked a long way without being carried, something like this. We have to find how old he was. Okay, and what is the answer to number 3, teachers?
He was 7. One half.
1.5.
One and a half.
year.
Exactly, very good. You can write 1.5, it's fine.
1.5.
Or 1.5, also right. You can either write the number of the words. Either way will be correct. Okay? Number 4, keywords.
He took over his own.
More than a hobby.
Okay,
Mountaineering.
more hobby. Very good. So how old was he? Number 4?
13.
13.
I think
Exactly.
he's 13.
13. Beautiful. Very good. Excellent. Now, number 5.
I see. Took over his own.
His own.
Home trainer.
Home trainer. Very good. So how old was he?
18.
He was 18.
Beautiful. Very good. Okay. Now, I have BPM. What is BPM, teachers? Do we know?
Beats per minute.
Good. Beats per minute. Okay. Beats per minute. And then pulse rate, slower. Fair. Okay. Even for people, fit people. So, what is the answer?
33.
Exactly.
33.
Beautiful. Thank you very much. So I insist, this is a very good exercise, no, to do and to practice and probably to understand what is a scanning. Okay, a skimming, general idea, gist, and scan, specific information. Now I go to this.
¿A qué me voy a meter?
Te van a dar.
Por ahí hay un micrófono abierto, maestros, por favor. Thank you. Thank you very much. All right. So now I want you to take some time, right, and to read the questions. We have 6 questions, which are not really questions. They are STEM questions. We have to find, no, the other half of the sentences, okay, so that the sentence, no, fits correctly. It's not about grammar, remember? It's about meaning. It's about the text. So, for example, in number 1, I could probably underline most climbers Everest, all right? And I have need oxygen, finish, accompanied, slow progress, top. And I have all of the above, all right? So take some time to read the stems and to underline key information. Can you do that? Please.
Sí, 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 claro, por supuesto.
All right. Now, remember that the answers follow the order of the text. All right. So number one, it's then number two, and then it's number three. The text, I don't know if you realize, but it's written in a very interesting way. For example, right after the first paragraph, we have a two-line paragraph, then a paragraph of only one line, and then another paragraph of only one line. Okay. So keep that in mind. What will be key information for number two?
Most climbers or majority of climbers?
No, but that's number one. For number two.
Unlike and because perhaps most climbers.
Okay, very good. Unlike, very good. And because, beautiful. What is unlike?
Differently?
Different from. Different, very good, excellent. What about number three? What will be the key word?
Training.
Training. In the past or now?
Now.
Exactly. So as you can see, the stem is not giving us a lot of information. So I have to look also at the choices. Demands, takes, rest periods, a coach. Okay? What about number four?
Oats.
Fitness. Fitness. Very good too. Exactly. Why? In other words, why is he so fit? All right. Very good. In number two, okay, why is what he did? Why is Kilian Jornet different to the other climbers or to most of them? All right. So look at number five.
Training.
That's right. Training. Once again, we don't really have a lot. So we have psychological, drinks, water, what else?
Recovery time.
Recovery time.
Time, reduce. Very good. And then number six. What is the focus of number six?
Books.
Exactly. Books. Books. Very good. Excellent. So let's go back to the text, teachers, and look at the text. Do you remember reading about books? Look at these three paragraphs. The last paragraph, exactly. The last paragraph. So in order to answer that, I need to direct my attention to the last paragraph. All right. What about a paragraph?
You're breaking up, Mario.
In which he described. Come on, excuse me.
You were just breaking up.
I can hear you.
Can you hear me?
I'm sorry. Voy a apagar mi cámara. A lo mejor es por eso.
All right.
Yes, I can.
All right.
Is it better now?
It is. It is.
Can you hear me? Can everybody hear me? Okay, I'm
Yes,
sorry.
but
I'm sorry.
repeat the last
Yeah, I'm
part.
getting the. Here we go. Right there. I'm sorry. Sí, tengo aquí una leyendita que me dice su conexión a internet es inestable. I'm sorry for that. All right. So we said that books are mentioned in the last paragraph right here. Then we said that what the training includes in what paragraph, teachers, do you remember?
In the second.
The second one?
No,
This page?
In the second page, yeah, that page, the second.
The second, he was 13 when he says he started to take it seriously. Very good. For his second breaking ascent and descent. Very good. Also look at this paragraph number 3. Sleeping only 7 hours at night seems almost superhuman. Okay. So probably right there between the second and the third paragraph in the second page. All right. Now, what paragraph or in what section, I don't know if you remember, they discuss why he is so super fit.
In the second paragraph, no, in the second page. In the 5 paragraph.
Where it talks about their beats. Sorry, his beats.
His beats, okay. Sleeping only 7 hours in this one? Or all this is thanks to his childhood in the mountains and to genetics?
Yes, a 4.
Thank you. This one, exactly. Okay, I'm doing all these, teachers, no, because I'm sure you're going to do it in a more organized and probably more efficient way when you work on your own. Remember that reading is a solitary activity, okay? Reading is done on our own, okay? More than anything, is just to show some bits and pieces on how you can break down the text, underline key information, and then go back and forth. All right? So now, please, can you go back, look at the questions, and find the correct answers? Remember, once you have chosen a correct answer, make sure that the other ones are not right. Okay? Thumbs up. Thank you. Thank you very much. Thank you. Thank you. All right. So let's say 7 minutes, and then we come back.
Pesa como, son como
All right. Let's see. In number 1, teachers, what do we have? A, B, C, or D?
Is the letter A?
Letter A, need oxygen to finish their ascent, right?
Letter D.
Letter D, all of the above?
D. Yes.
Letter D, exactly. So we go to the first paragraph, no? Let's underline. All right, so come on, help me. It says, with a Sherpa guides, equipped with oxygen, masks, okay, 90% of climbers oxygen to ascend Everest. And then right here, with an almost equal number of guides, they'll spend weeks to get to the top after reaching base camp. So that's why this is what's in, I don't know if you realized, but it's rather tricky because it's not only in one part of the paragraph, it's somehow scattered all over the paragraph. So in many cases, that's how we're going to find, some of the answers. Not only one section, but all over the paragraph. All right, teachers, what about number 2? It says, unlike most Everest climbers, because...
I think it's letter B.
B.
Is the letter B?
Letter B. How do we know? Can you tell me?
The first time he climbed made 26 hours, and the second it was 17 hours.
Exactly. Right. It says, and they'll spend weeks, but this is interesting. But when we have this but, this is a connector of contrast, indicating that what they're going to say is going to contradict what they say before. 8 to 15 people, almost equal number of guides, spend weeks to get to the top after reaching base camp. But I'm going to contradict what I just said. Ultra distance mountain runner Kilian Ornette Burganda ascending the mountain alone, no oxygen, fixed ropes for climbing. Very good. That's why. Remember that it's very important, either as we are training to take the C1 certification, or if we are training students to take the certification, because probably, and you are probably doing it right now, you've done it before, or you probably will in the future. No, the validation of the answers is really important. Rather than saying A, B, C, D, it's why. Exactly in the text, why does it say that? All right. Now, what about number 3? In his training now, Kilian.
Is the letter A demands a lot of himself?
Very good. Fanny, can you tell me why, Fanny?
Huh?
Can you tell me why? Where do you find it? Or anybody else? How do we know that is the correct answer, teachers? Where do you
Maybe
find
the first page it mentions something like with food poisoning.
Aha.
Maybe.
And he did it in 26 hours with food poisoning. Okay.
Maybe. And
Probably,
then
maybe to read between the lines. That's right. When people feel sick, they don't want to do it. But even though he was sick, he did it. Yeah, that's a very good way of reading between the lines. Any other part, any other section, teachers?
Almost the last paragraph.
Yes.
It says he often sets himself challenges to see how long he can endure difficult conditions in order to understand what his body and mind can cope with.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Maestra. Exactly. So it's right here, teachers. It says he often sets himself challenges to see how long he can endure difficult conditions in order to truly understand beautiful. Very good. All right. Now, next one. Killian partly owes his incredible fitness to what? What is the answer? Nobody?
Is the letter B?
Letter B.
Oh,
It's not letter B.
Letter
I'm sorry.
B?
C.
Letter what? C.
Letter C. All
Where
of
he
the
grew
above.
up. Exactly. He says right here, he breathes more efficiently than average people, taking in more oxygen per breath, and has a much faster recovery. His body quickly breaks down lactic acid. All this is thanks to his childhood in the mountains and to his genetics. Very good. Excellent. Now, right. His training includes, number 5.
Letter C.
A.
Letter C, trying to reduce his recovery time. No, he can do that. He already
A.
has
Letter A.
psychological
A.
preparation. Very good.
Psychological.
I think it's letter A.
That's right. Very good. Very good. How do we know?
It says
But
that
it is
his
his mental strength that sets him apart.
Okay,
It says he almost gave himself kidney failure.
That's right. But I cannot see it. I'm sorry.
In the 4th paragraph.
Before the last paragraph.
4th paragraph.
It says that his mental strength that sets him apart. He often sets himself very good. Excellent. Thank you. Yes. And then the last one. Killian's books are?
Letter D.
Letter D.
Letter
Why?
D. E.
Why D?
At the beginning of the first line, it says it will take a book to list all the races and awards.
Very good. Right. And then he also says he says
he finds time.
Awards, climb, even here achievement exceed the average person. And he finds the time for the blogs and the 3 books. Okay, excellent teachers. Very, very good. Excellent. Right? All right. So now I'm going to give you, now this is going to be, please, I want you to label because you're going to upload all these activities. Okay, at the end of today's session, we will tell you where you are going to upload these activities and following what format. So right now, please identify this as reading activity 1, please. Reading activity 1. Because the next one, obviously, is going to be reading activity 2. But for this one, you're going to do the 3 exercises on your own, and I'm just going to give you some information at the end. Let me just find this. Kidneys, no. All right. First of all, I'm going to show it to you. Remember that when we do any kind of activity, it's really important to understand the structure. Okay? So, a threat to bananas. See, this is from the British Council, and the level is C1. All right? For you to know. And then we have the preparation task with all these definitions and the vocabulary. Then you do this, and then you go to the text. Actually, let's do this together. No? Can you see it?
Yes.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Very good. I don't know what I did. I have resistant, fungus, a plantation, lucrative, a shoot, a stem, a quarantine, a monoculture. And then I have definitions. All right, I have resistant. What is resistant, teachers?
Letter E.
Letter E.
Not affected by something.
Not affected by something. Beautiful. Fungus, teachers. What is fungus?
Letter
D.
That's right.
Letter D.
Good. What about number 3? A plantation.
Letter F.
That's right. Where crops are grown, like tea and coffee. Very good. Number 4.
Makes a lot of profit is letter A.
Very good. Exactly. What about number 5? Shoot. This is interesting, huh? You know what? Let's go to number 6. Letter C. Ahorita regresamos. Letter number 6.
Letter C, the longing part of a
Letter
plant.
C.
Right. Sometimes we can find the correct answer by elimination. Don't feel afraid to do that. Say, no sé, but I'm going to do the ones that I know, and then I can go back to that one. What about number 7?
Letter H.
Letter
Letter H is something.
That's an H. Right. And then what about number 8?
G. Is the letter G.
Very good. Mono, one kind of crop. So what is a shoot?
Letter B, a baby
A
plant.
baby plant, ¿no? Sí, como cuando dicen las mamás, los hijitos, ¿no? Ay, dame un hijito de esa planta. Bueno, yo no sé, mi mamá sí dice, ¿no? Dame un hijito de esa planta. That's a have you heard that?
Yes.
Oh, thank you. Yeah, that's a shoot. Very good. El hijito de la planta. Very good. Excellent.
Sir, I'm not agree. I think should could be the long thin part of a plant, is it it?
No, that is the stem
That is the
of the
stem.
plant.
Oh yeah, I saw it. Thank you.
That's okay. Let me give you, okay, shoot. Well, shoot as a, maybe we're confused. Shoot es como disparar también, ¿no? Como verbo. Y, ¿no? He shot me. Pero también es eso, es el hijito de la planta.
Un brote.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Ahí está. That's the real word. And a stem is, for example, when you buy a rose, no? You have a rose and then you have a stem that, no? Sometimes the stems are very long. Okay. Thank you. Excellent. So now I'm going to send this to you so you can do task number 1, which is multiple choice, and then task number 2, in which you have to complete the sentences with these words: grows easily, Southeast Asia. This is to identify key information in the text. It's a very interesting type of reading. All right, so here we go. I don't know why the chat, I lose chat, right? Wait, no. Todos en la reunión. Okay, here we go. It should be there. Please, thumbs up if you can see it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Okay, thank you. So I'm going to give you 15 minutes to do it. Okay, 15 minutes to do it. Remember, this is reading activity number 2. It's important that you label, okay, the activity so that we can keep track of all your evidencias. So 15 minutes for both tasks. I'm going to be here. I'm going to turn off my microphone, but I'm going to be here if you need any help. Remember, what happens if I do not know a word? I try to work it out using the context. All right? Good luck. Berenice Vargas, do you need the new PDF or the other one, the previous one? All right. Ready, Fabiola. I send it to you, Fabiola Lagunes. You must have it right now. All right, teachers, thumbs up if we're done. Got it? No? Okay, thank you, Adriana. Thank you. Thank you, Kari. Thank you very much.
Ready, teacher.
Excellent. Thank you. Thank you. Excellent. So remember, this is reading activity number 2. The first one was reading activity number 1, and this is reading activity number 2. All right. So what I'm going to do right now is that I'm going to share the answers for you to check your own work. Let me just find them right here. I'm going to include the ones we did before. Okay, remember the ones which we did? No, all them. Definitions. Number 1 is E. Number 2, D, F, A, B, C, H, and G. And then the multiple choice. Number 1 is B. Number 2 is D. Number 3 is B. 4 is A. 5 is D. And 6 is C. Any questions? Any doubts? All right. In task number 2, number 1 is TR1. In number 2 is Ships Well. Number 3, Central America. Number 4, to new locations, floating banana fields, grows easily, tastes good enough. TR4, Southeast Asia, and genetically modifying crops. This type of exercise is like a close. I don't know if you're familiar with that concept. It's something we're going to do something, okay? Close exercise, okay? We can have open, close, no? In which you have to think of the word, and we have vocabulary or selective, in which you are given different choices, like in this case, okay? What's interesting about this is that even though, okay, we're doing, what we're focusing is on a skill, which is the reading skill, we're also working with some grammar and some vocabulary, which happen also at first, no, with all the definitions and the concepts. All right, any question with task number 2? One that you would like me to go back on and talk about? All right, so I guess no. Okay, just to finish, before we go, just to consolidate what we saw yesterday, reading skills, all right? Reading skills are very useful, not only for our everyday life, not only as teachers, because probably we will have to teach reading in our classroom. If we're not doing it now, believe me, you will. Eventually you will, okay? Because what happens with English teachers is that even though we're working with young students now, chances are later you're going to be working with adults, and later you're going to be working with university teachers, and probably you're going to be working at a certification center, or later you're going to be probably applying for a scholarship and you're going to be taking a certification course. All right. It's really important, okay, that we keep this in mind as English teachers. Skimming and scanning. Really important. If you haven't done it in your classroom, I suggest that you start, because it's really, really useful. It's one way to remove anxiety and boredom from reading comprehension exercises, regardless of the level. Regardless of the level. Remember, the more your students know before they do a reading activity, the better, and the more successful they will be. All right? So remember that. You skim the text to get a general idea, and then you move on to the questions. You read the questions, you identify keywords, and if possible, go even to the choices, and then scan the text. All right? You don't have to read the text all over again. You can locate certain parts within the text that will give you the correct answers. And that also goes for real life. I mean, when we're reading in real life, when we're not reading for pleasure, that's how we read. Okay, we connect ideas. All right, excellent. So now, before I say good night, I think Mr. Gabriel, I think they're going to tell them where we are going to. They have to hand in the evidencias every night, right?
Yeah, that's right. Jair, are you there?
Claro, voy.
Yes.
Creo que okay, adelante, Jair, I'm sorry.
Sí, sí, no se preocupe, maestro. Hola, buenas noches, teachers. Para llevar un mejor control de las evidencias, les estamos pidiendo que de acuerdo a la actividad que le ponga el teacher Mario, a la hora de subirla al Classroom, voy a compartir mi pantalla. A la hora de subirla al Classroom, la pongan así. No sé si ¿logran ver la pantalla todos?
Sí, ya se puede ver.
Ok. Si se dan cuenta, viene act de actividad o activity, -1, dependiendo la actividad que hayan hecho, y así consecutivamente. ¿Para qué? Para que así a nosotros sea más fácil el identificarlas y ordenarlas para poder presentarlas ante la autoridad cuando nos las solicitan. Importante que todas las actividades que hagan sean subidas, cargadas en formato PDF, porque así igual de esa misma manera es más fácil manipularlas para poder imprimirlas y poder llevarlas a la autoridad correspondiente. Esta es la parte de cómo subir su actividad, dependiendo, el maestro Mario les va a poner en el Classroom la actividad número 1 y ustedes así la nombran seguido de su nombre, por favor. De ahí, otra cosa importante que considerar es la inscripción o registro en el Classroom. Ustedes, como lo hicieron, fue que les apareció esto en su correo, les apareció, perdón, una liga que los direccionó aquí, Habilidades Superiores de Comunicación en Inglés C1 Advanced, y les aparecen todas las fechas que puede haber. Lógicamente el 14 y el 15 pues no nos vamos a ver, solamente es de lunes a viernes, pero por ejemplo en el día de mañana elegirían el día 13 y ustedes se registran de nuevo con su nombre, apellido y correo. ¿Por qué? Porque va a ser el pase de lista y ojo, no basta nada más con registrarse y en ese momento ya quedan en el pase de lista, sino que a la hora de que ustedes ingresan a la sesión de Zoom, a través del link que les llegó, porque es un link personalizado, ahí es donde se registra su asistencia. Les voy a mostrar más o menos cómo queda la asistencia registrada. Permítanme tantito. Así queda. Entonces, a mí aquí me muestra la hora en la que se registraron, pero donde dice el estatus es la hora en la que, el momento en el que ya entraron a la sesión. Entonces, esto va a quedar como registro para su toma de asistencia. Sí o sí, pues deberían de registrarse en el Zoom y sí o sí, pues deberían de poder entrar a la sesión, ¿no? Esa es una de las cosas. Otra, en el Classroom, ya les compartí por el chat el link del Classroom por si no se han unido al Classroom. Ahorita yo les puse ya la actividad bueno, no es una actividad, es un anuncio que sale en el Classroom y viene el link para registrarse para la fecha 13. Igual ahí pueden entrar y se van a registrar y les va a llegar el correo, ¿no? Eso es lo que ya les había comentado. Pero aquí en trabajos en clase, el teacher Mario va a ser el que les va a estar subiendo sus trabajos en clase, se las va a asignar y es como ustedes van a poder lograr entrar y cargar y subir su actividad. No sé si tengan alguna duda hasta aquí. Teacher Mario.
Yo nada más, entonces ya bajo esta óptica, una corrección. Voy a hacer las tareas y entonces ahí en las tareas voy a poner, por ejemplo, hoy fue reading. Ese va a ser el título de la tarea. Y les voy a
Claro.
poner actividades 1 y 3. Listening,
Exactamente.
actividades 4, 5 y 6, para que ustedes
Exacto.
se vayan guiando y sepan qué actividades son las que tenemos que subir. Yo
Así
se
es.
las voy a ir numerando, ¿no? Entonces, la de hoy es la 1 y la 2, que va a ser la tarea que vamos a subir. Nada más
Así
es
es.
eso. ¿Ok?
Perfecto. Cualquier duda, cualquier soporte técnico que necesiten, que no puedo subir al Classroom, que no puedo entrar al Classroom, yo les dejo mi número de teléfono en el chat y con confianza me pueden escribir, con confianza los puedo yo apoyar para poder iniciar sesión. Por ahí si algunos no han trabajado en Classroom, tiene que ser cuenta favorablemente de Gmail para que puedan tener acceso a la plataforma, por favor.
Buenas noches, tengo una pregunta.
Dígame, maestra.
Hola, bueno, la verdad es que yo no podría entrar a todas las sesiones, pero por ejemplo, en caso de entrar solamente a algunas y realizar todas las actividades, ¿eso me vale a mí como si hubiera completado el curso? ¿O
Sí,
forzosamente tengo que estar en todas las sesiones, todas las horas y no hay de otra?
la preferencia es que entren a las sesiones. ¿Por qué? Porque aquí es donde se nutren, gracias al conocimiento del maestro Mario, aquí es donde se nutren y donde logran tener esa interacción, ¿no? O si tienen, porque yo puedo subir y va a ser una opción. Voy a descargar este video y lo voy a compartir en el mismo Classroom, pero digo, se perderían de esa interacción con el maestro Mario o la interacción que se pretende en estos cursos.
Claro, yo entiendo, bueno, creo que todos entendemos esta parte. Pero bueno, por ejemplo, en mi caso, yo sé que hay muchos más igual que yo. Algunos trabajamos en las tardes,
Sí,
incluso fines de
entendido.
semana, ¿no? Entonces, más que nada por eso, porque yo creo que si estamos aquí es porque tenemos el interés de completar el curso, ¿no?
Así es.
Entonces, digo, bueno, si hubiera la opción, pues estaría genial para los que no podemos asistir
Yo,
todos los días.
yo creo, sí, claro, maestra, claro que sí, maestra Liz. Eso yo creo que lo tiene usted que arreglar con su coordinador. Nosotros realmente no podemos darle ninguna, nosotros somos invitados a dar el curso, nosotros no, en ese aspecto no podemos verdaderamente darle una solución. Trabájelo con su coordinador le dirá si es obligatorio que usted se presente o que si puede usted subir las evidencias. La verdad, una disculpa, nosotros
Entiendo.
somos
No, yo
invitados.
también entiendo su postura, por supuesto, y uno le da valor a todo lo que están haciendo y vaya, estamos agradecidos por pues porque nos hayan invitado a muchos de aquí que no habíamos tenido la oportunidad y creo que si estamos aquí, pues es porque valoramos esta parte y el súper trabajo del maestro Mario, la verdad es que creo que estuvo muy bien la sesión y bueno, nada más mi pregunta es meramente por eso, ¿no? Porque sí tengo el interés de tener la constancia o lo que vaya a ser que nos vayan a otorgar y incluso, ¿no? Si no lo hubiera, pues para todos es experiencia y todo nos enriquece, ¿no? Como maestros, tanto a nosotros como a nuestros alumnos, ¿no? Gracias.
Así es.
Lo checamos con las autoridades nosotros, pero también usted pregunte por ahí a su coordinador y ya juntamos, pero estamos abiertos a cualquier sí.
Muy amable, muchas gracias, los dos.
Por
Maestra,
ahí.
Maresa no se escucha muy bien.
Estaba yo primero.
Si quieren, apaguen su cámara por si es la conectividad. Maestra Angélica Moreno.
Ajá, mi pregunta, maestro, va dirigida a saber si vamos a tener alguna constancia de aquí para que nos sirva para la UCICAM, porque pues muchos queremos hacer concurso luego de promoción horizontal o aumento de horas. Y otra cosa, igual que la maestra Liz, en mi caso, acabo de entrar a ser tutora de otros maestros, entonces tengo reuniones también con ellos en las noches porque no pueden a otra hora. Entonces sí, también se me hace un poco difícil. Por otra parte, también, bueno, algunos ya estamos certificados. No sé si es obligatorio hacer una nueva certificación o algo por el estilo, porque bueno, ya algunos hemos hecho TOEFL, hemos hecho Exaver, hemos hecho First Certificate y no sé si nos van a dar el examen para CAE o algo por el estilo. También muchos, bueno, o sea, yo veo aquí muchos compañeros que salimos de la Facultad de Idiomas de la Universidad Veracruzana y todos sabemos que tenemos que salir de ahí certificados. Entonces ya hemos hecho certificaciones, no sé si va a haber el examen como tal y se nos va a dar o algo por el estilo, porque recuerdo cuando estuvo este señor, creo, Yunes Linares, nos dieron los first certificates. Me parece que la maestra Liz fue la que estuvo como coordinadora en ese entonces y se nos dieron exámenes, se nos regalaron exámenes de certificación. No sé si ustedes también nos van a regalar o nos van a brindar ese apoyo porque sabemos que los exámenes de certificación de Cambridge son de 5,000 pesos, ¿no? Entonces, pues sí son algo caros, ¿no? Para poderlos adquirir. Ok, esa es mi
Mire,
pregunta.
nosotros, como decía el maestro Mario, somos la parte invitada para poder apoyarles en la gestión y en la dirección del curso. Como no somos la autoridad directamente de PRONI quien decida si les vamos a dar valor usicano o no. Eso lo tendrían que ver directamente con PRONI. Si hay una constancia y por experiencia en cursos anteriores, después de un curso, normalmente les dan esa facilidad de los exámenes, como usted comentaba, pero yo no sabría decirle si va a haber esa facilidad en este momento. Hemos visto, porque se han preparado maestros para diferentes tipos de exámenes y PRONI también les ha otorgado esa facilidad de darle los exámenes para que puedan presentarlos sin pagarlo. Entonces, pero nosotros como tal no pudiéramos responderle esa inquietud porque tendría que ser directamente con el maestro Ricardo, que es el coordinador de PRONI estatal.
Gracias,
Disculpe, ¿puedo
maestro.
tomar la palabra?
Gracias.
Perdón.
Creo que iba la maestra Maresa Espinosa. Sigue sin escucharse bien, maestra.
Maestra Maresa, perdón que le interrumpa. Sí, veo que ha intentado en 2 o 3 ocasiones comunicarse. Nada más que no se escucha muy bien. Si pudiera poner su solicitud en el chat, por favor, y con gusto vemos si podemos
Que me
responder.
escriba también, sin problema.
Sí, a eso me refiero. Ok.
¿Puedo?
Adelante,
¿Sí?
maestro.
Buenas noches de nuevo, teacher Heriberto. Yo tengo una inquietud referente a, primero que nada, gracias, porque la verdad se agradece tener un poco de ayuda, nunca está de más, y pues desempolvar un poco de conocimiento. Pero creo que tengo la misma inquietud que mis compañeros. En mi caso, yo soy docente, pero ya con plaza, no pertenezco como tal a PRONI. Entonces, como tal, nosotros en la SEP no tenemos un coordinador como tal. Yo trabajé para PRONI, pero fue hace muchos años y ya estoy alejado de ellos y sinceramente desconozco quién está a cargo. Entonces, no sé si serían tan amables de preguntar, ya que se les pidió el recurso o el apoyo como tal, cómo sería con nosotros, porque no somos parte de PRONI, somos docentes con plaza y
Ok.
pues no tenemos comunicación con ellos.
Sí, maestro, si gusta me puede mandar un mensajito de WhatsApp con esa inquietud, ya aquí lo puse, el 2282-1283-34, y nosotros le haremos llegar esa inquietud al coordinador de PRONI para saber qué procedería en su caso.
Bueno, muchas gracias.
Teacher Mario, adelante.
Bueno, yo nada más era para despedirme, darle las gracias, de veras, maestros. Valoro muchísimo que estén aquí con nosotros. Sabemos que es el fin de la jornada. La verdad, les agradezco muchísimo. Yo crezco muchísimo con ustedes, aprendo muchísimo de ustedes, ¿no? Y pues nos vemos mañana. Continuamos por acá. Entonces, nada más estén pendientes, por favor, con lo de Classroom para que subamos las evidencias y nos vemos mañana por acá. Y créanme, vamos a hacer las preguntas que nos hicieron a las autoridades pertinentes. Quisiéramos poder darles una respuesta en este momento, pero la verdad es que sí, como dice Yair, no la tenemos, pero pasaremos sus inquietudes y trataremos de darles una solución. Entonces, nos vemos mañana. Muchísimas gracias. Okay. Have a good night.
Bye, everyone.
See you tomorrow. Bye.
Night.
Bye.